Hello and welcome to Exponentials 1.3, the symbolic form, f of x equals b to the x power. Alright, so in today's video we're gonna continue from where we left off in 1.2, where I showed you guys how to get the b value. And this time in this lesson I'm gonna show you guys how to make an equation based on the b value that we just practiced solving for, or figuring out rather, in Exponentials 1.2. Alright, and once we can figure out the equation, then we can start using that equation to find other values of f, or of x rather. Okay, so when you look at this problem, everything's all filled out for you, and don't worry about how I got the numbers. I mean, eventually when you get the formula for what b is, you can eventually figure out the pattern to see how to get all the other numbers. But to make this demonstration more like what your homework is tonight, we're not going to actually have you guys fill out values like this that are in a table that are all blank, or in a graph picture that's all blank. We're going to have you guys have the numbers already, pre-written for you, and you just got to figure out the three things that you see on the right hand side: the f of x equals blank, f of 8 equals blank, and f of negative 6 equals blank. Okay, so to make it more, I guess, kind of like what your homework is, I'm going to make it as comparatively similar as possible. Okay, so when you look at your table, like I said, it's all filled out. When you look at your table, you're going to notice a big blank in the middle. Okay, and in your packet, in your handout, there's actually something in the middle. Okay, but for now, just ignore that for now, because like I said, to keep it more like what your homework is going to look like tonight, then I kind of wanted you guys to ignore what's in the middle for now. Okay, all right, so let's get on it. So in the other lesson, 1.2, I showed you guys that to get the b value, you're going to always do this. You're going to go f of blank parentheses. Oops, why isn't it writing? There we go. F of blank parentheses over f of blank parentheses again equals a fraction bar. And let's erase that little random mark that appeared from my my hand hitting the screen. And this is going to be equal to our b value. Okay? All right, so if you guys remember what we did the other lesson, then you're going to know that we're going to always fill in the bigger x value on the top, the smaller x value on the bottom, and in the next fraction, we're going to put the numbers, the y values that connected to each of those x's that we put in the first fraction. All right, so you have the power to choose which ordered pair to plug in. So I suggest you don't use -2 and 1/4, -1 and 1/2, because if you notice, 1/4 and 1/2 are fractions, and if you have to put the y value in this second fraction here, then I don't think you want to put fractions inside of fractions. I mean, I guess you could if you wanted to practice that process, but I don't suggest you do that. Okay, so you can pick any of the other values: 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 4, 3, 8. You can pick any one of those. All right, so I'm just going to stick with the ones that they actually gave us pre-hand, pre-filled out already, which were 1, 2, and 2, 4. All right, so we're going to put the bigger x value on the top, which is 2, the smaller x value on the bottom, which is a 1, and fill out the corresponding y values for each of those x's. So 2 paired up with a 4, so I put them on the top right next to the 2. And the x equals 1 pairs up with a 2 as his y value. Okay, then we're just going to divide by 2, and we're going to get, we're going to divide the 4 by 2, and we're going to get 2. And that is hopefully my b value. And the reason why I say hopefully is because in the other lesson the other day, you found out that sometimes you can get a number, but it's not actually your b value. Okay, because if your difference is too big a difference, like it's not a difference of 1, for example, then you don't necessarily have your regular b value, your b to the first power value. Okay, so to check that we have the right kind of b value, we're going to take our difference of x's. So x on top is 2, x on the bottom is a 1, so my difference is 1. So that locks it in. That tells us basically, yep, my b value is a 2. Okay, so how do I use this information? Well, I'm going to use this to make my equation that's going to look just like what this section is called, right? Symbolic form, f of x equals b to the x power. So I'm going to grab the b that I just found, which is a 2. I'm going to put it on that line. I'm going to put a power of x, and I just made the equation, 2 to the x power. Okay, and then I'm going to start using this equation to figure out what happens when x is 8, or what happens when x is -6. Okay, so I'm going to plug in those x values into the equation that we just figured out, and we're going to crunch all the numbers, and we're going to get our answer. So first of all, we're going to plug in an 8. So f of 8, I forgot to write that, f of 8 equals 2 to the 8th power. Okay, so for this calculation, you probably might want to use a calculator. I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to, but you can by all means use one from now on, because the numbers are going to get kind of big, and yeah, you're going to want to have one available. So feel free, use the calculator. Okay, so 256 is going to be the result of 2 to the 8th power. So on this blank line right here, when I plug in x equals 8, I get a y value, or f of x value of 256. Okay? Alright, so now let's plug in -6. So f of -6 is going to be written as 2 to the -6th power. And if you remember from not a couple of lessons ago, but a while ago, where when we had negative exponents, this negative exponent did something to the base value 2. Okay, and that negative exponent basically tells the 2, the base value 2, to go to a different location compared to where he currently is at. Okay, so that negative says to the 2, go to the bottom. So if I were to turn 2 into a fraction, it would be 2 over 1. So if I think of this base as 2 over 1, the negative sign says to the 2 over 1, switch places. So the 2 goes on the bottom, the 1 goes to the top. So this is going to basically turn into a base value of 1/2, because the negative sign told me to switch the 2 to the bottom. Okay, so now that the negative did its job, my power of 6 is going to still be there. And now I have a totally different looking problem, which is 1/2 to the 6th power. Okay, then you're going to do 1/2 to the 6th power. So you basically have 6 1s all multiplied together. You have 6 2s all multiplied together. And when you crunch those numbers, you get 1 over 64. Okay, so I'm going to write 1 over 64 in this blank right here. And there you go. That's problem number 1. Next problem. Okay, so problem number 2, same thing. We have our tables and we have our graph. They're not filled out on your handout, so just fill them out with the numbers that you see. And the first thing we're going to do is figure out our b value. And the b value is basically the letter, the value that's going to show you the pattern of how to get from one y value to the next. Okay? Alright, so to make our b value known to us, we're going to set it up just like I showed you guys in 1.2. We're going to make f of blank parentheses divided by f of blank parentheses equals a blank fraction. And hopefully we do this and correctly set it up correctly so that we know that it's a regular plain old b. Not b to the 2nd power, not b to the 3rd power, not b to the 4th power, but just plain old b to the 1st power. Okay? Alright, and this is going to be our hope that we can get a difference of 1. And let's try to pick numbers that are actually differences of 1. Okay, so I wouldn't go and choose 2, 9 and 4, 81. I mean, I guess you could. That would be a difference of 2. So you would just have a little more work to do, but you can still arrive at the right answer. Okay, so let's just pick 2, 9 and 3, 27. I guess I could have picked other numbers. That's perfectly fine, but I guess I wanted to choose x equals 3, so put that at the top. X equals 2, put that on the bottom because it's a smaller one. So 27 corresponds to the 3, and 9 corresponds to the 2. Okay, divide that fraction, we get a 3. And since I purposely picked x values that were a difference of 1, this is the kind of b value I'm looking for. Okay, and we're going to set up our equation just like what we have here in the title of the lesson, b to the x power. So we just figured out that b is 3, so write 3 to the x power. Okay, and then we're going to start using this brand new equation that we just found out and plug in 7 and crunch the numbers, then plug in -4 and crunch the numbers. Okay, so let's work on 7 first. So f of 7 equals 3 to the 7th power. Okay, and this one you definitely want a calculator to figure out this value. You don't want to do this by hand. I mean, I guess you could if you want to exercise your brain that much, but yeah, I don't think you want to. Okay, so use the calculator and it'll give you 2,187. Okay, and like I said, that's why you don't want to crunch these numbers with your hand. perfectly fine to use the calculator. Okay, first time this year I'm telling you guys, yes, use the calculator, because I wanna make the numbers get pretty big. I don't want to keep it small like I normally do. I want to make the numbers any size I want from now on. Okay. All right, so let's figure out the next value, which is x is -4. So we're gonna have our base value 3. We're gonna put it to the -4 power. And we're gonna put that negative sign to work, which is gonna tell the 3 to become the fraction 1/3. Okay, so now that the negative sign did its job, the negative sign disappears, and all we have is power of 4. So when it was power of -4, my base was 3. When the negative did its job, the 3 turns into a 1/3, and now I have 1/3 to the 4th power. And notice how the negative sign is gone. Okay, so this was a lesson that we went over in the 3rd quarter, so hopefully you remember that. Okay, so 4th power means I got 4 1s all multiplied together, and I also have 4 3s multiplied together. And when I multiply all those numbers, I arrive at 1/81. Okay, so that's what I'm going to put in this last blank, 1/81. Okay, all right, number 3. Okay, so once again, tables are all filled out. Let's make our blank equation, or I guess process, that I'm just going to fill out, our blank fractions, I guess, that we're going to fill out to find our b value. And notice, like I said, this is just like what we did in the previous lesson. Okay, so that's why I keep on reminding you guys, right? Ever since the 3rd quarter hit, I told you guys, right, to be successful in higher level math, you got to bring prior knowledge to your next couple of lessons, or maybe lessons way in the future as well. Okay, that's how you keep higher level math on the easier side. Okay. All right, so this time I can't really pick a lot of numbers. I don't have very many choices, because if you look at the f of x column or the y column, you got a ton of fractions. You got 1/2, 1/4, 1/8, 1/16. So I don't have very many options. So the only option I have for choices are these pairs. Okay, so in your homework tonight, you're not going to have very many options also. So sometimes you're going to get stuck and you're going to be forced to use y values or f of x values that are fractions or that are decimals. Okay, and if you're forced to do that, then you're forced to do that. So just try to get through it as best as you can. Okay, but set it up the same way I taught you, right? Bigger x value on the top, so that would be 0. Smaller x value in the bottom, which would be -1. Okay, and 1 corresponds to 0, and 2 corresponds to -1. Okay, so, and we know we have a difference of 1, which is absolutely what we must try to do at all cost, right? So that we can know that when I solve this, when I reduce this fraction or divide this fraction right here, that the number I get is the actual b value, and not something I have to alter because it's a difference of 2 or a difference of 3 or a difference of 4. Okay, so now my b value is 1/2. First time we had an ugly number. Well, not really that ugly, but not something like it's just a 2 or a 3 or a 5, right? Those are nice base values. Okay, so when I have a base value of 1/2, okay, you want to stick that 1/2 in a fraction, so that when you put that x in that exponential spot position, then it doesn't look like 1x over 2, it's 1/2 to the x power. Yeah, and I kind of wrote it bad too, because the x is kind of like like hitting the parentheses. It shouldn't be doing that. I mean, I guess I got sloppy. Sorry about that. Okay, but I'm just going to leave it for now. All right, so we're going to continue on like we did the previous 2 columns. We're going to plug in 6, and we're going to plug in -4 for x. So let's do that. So f of 6 equals 1/2 to the 6th power. Okay, and the 6th power says I got 6 1s all multiplied together, and I have 6 2s all multiplied together. So when you multiply all those things together, you're going to get 1. Why isn't it writing? Oh, I know why. It's my pinky was hitting the screen, and it was throwing off the touchpad. So 1/64 is my response. Okay, so on this blank line, I'm going to put 1/64. Okay, so now let's plug in -4. So plug in -4. So we have 1/2 to the 1/2 to the -4 power. So here's where it's going to get kind of different from how negative powers affected problems 1 and 2. So in 1 and 2, the negative power made the base value into a fraction. Okay, but when my base value already starts off as a fraction, it's going to turn my fraction into a regular whole number. So this negative sign says to the 2, go to the top. The negative sign says to the 1, 1 go to the bottom. Basically switch places, or like a reciprocal. So 2 over 1 is known as just regular plain old 2. And it's going to be to the 4th power. So when you crunch those numbers, you're going to get 16. Okay? So no matter what, whether you do problems 1 and 2, you have fraction bases. When you do problems 3 and 4, you're still going to have fraction bases. You can't avoid that with the numbers that we chose to make you guys evaluate. Okay? Alright, so moving on to number 4. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing, same process, right? Blank fraction. So f of blank parentheses over f of blank parentheses equals blank fraction equals hopefully the kind of b that we want to see, which is b to the 1st power. So we're going to try to force a difference of 1 if we can. We're not always going to be able to do that, but as much as we can, let's try to force a difference of 1. Okay, so let's pick these numbers. We could have picked the other ones right above it, but I want to choose these. You can pick the ones above if you want to. And we're going to put the bigger number on the top, the bigger x value on the top rather, so that's 0. The smaller x value on the bottom, which is -1. So 0 corresponds with a 1, and -1 corresponds to 10. So my base value is 1 over 10. And like I said, I forced myself to pick a difference of 1. So there's my correct b value as my base, so 1 over 10. So let's put 1 over 10 in parentheses and put that to the x power. Okay, so let's start crunching numbers. So f of 5 will create 1/10 to the 5th power. So basically, like I said, 5 ones all multiplied, 5 tens all multiplied. So when you crunch those numbers, you're going to get 1 over, I believe, 100,000. Okay, and then f of -4, let's write 1 over 100,000 on this blank. Okay, alright, so f of -4 is going to be 1/10, base 1/10, to the -4 power. So this negative says to the 1/10, turn into your reciprocal, or basically 10 go to the top, 1 go to the bottom, which is basically just base 10. And that's going to still be to the 4th power. So let's crunch the numbers, and we're going to get 10,000. Okay. So 10,000 is this guy's answer. Alright, so your homework is going to be very similar to what I just showed you just now. When you see it, it's not going to look exactly the same as the 4 problems that I had. Okay, they're probably going to tell you less information, so if we just take a quick glance, yeah, you're going to see a table that's much smaller than the ones we had in 1 through 4, but you're going to be doing the same exact process. The only difference is because they're not giving you as many options for x and y so that you can choose, you're going to be forced to deal with uglier numbers like number 2, 1 comma 1/3, and 2 comma 1/9. So you're going to have to be putting fractions inside of fractions. So you can practice how to deal with that. Yeah. Yeah, and just try to get through it as best as you can. All right. So I hope this made sense. And if you have questions, I can answer whatever questions you have in class. All right. Take care. Good luck, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.